Is Xi's crisis why Trump defies Israel on Iran war? Tyrants must have military backing to maintain power. Xi appears to have gone a purge too far with General Zhang Yuxi. This may be the beginning of the end of Xi and change in world politics. Accusations against Zhang, almost certainly untrue, included leaking nuclear secrets to the US, bribery, factionalism, and undermining Xi's authority. Charges that go beyond typical corruption allegations and imply a threat to regime security. Some analysts compare the event to a coup, noting that Xi's removal of Zhang, a powerful princeling, a red princeling with deep military ties, one of the last few combat veterans from the Sino-Vietnamese War, marks a dramatic consolidation of power. Perhaps, as I've theorized, the fall of Chinese communism may be Trump's secret legacy plan. But with Xi's back to the wall and siding with Iran, Russia, Trump may not want to push China into open conflict, even though, as I've long analyzed, China is a paper dragon, both tactically and strategically, having specialized in kinetic, unrestricted warfare with the US for 2 decades. America, via the deep state CIA, is waging an eternal war with Russia via Ukraine. And if recent Russian reports are accurate, American, Polish, and British mercenaries bent on assassination in Russia were caught or killed. Ironically, forcing a military buildup with China, as Reagan did with the Soviet Union when I entered the army, might just result in the revolt of the PLA, who've not fought nor won a ground war since their Sino-Vietnamese stalemate in 1979. So tactically, they're shallow, and strategically, they're shallow, which I'll get to in a second. But the deep state assets paid off by China have no interest in power vacuums, as anything can happen. And their priority is maintaining global control via massive, constant population surveillance and information control. That is clearly where Palantir, Bithiel, and AI in general are heading. China's nuclear missiles were reportedly filled with water instead of fuel due to widespread corruption within the People's Liberation Army, the PLA, according to intelligence assessment cited by Bloomberg in 2024. That is huge. That means the Chinese nuclear stockpile was completely ineffective. Now, this scandal centered in the PLA rocket force, also involved faulty missile silos, lids that Western China could prevent launches, undermining the credibility of China's nuclear deterrent, completely undermining it, making it really a paper nuclear power. The revelations triggered a sweeping military purge under Xi, leading to the removal of top officials, including Zhang Yuxi, just recently, China's highest-ranking uniformed officer and the leadership of the rocket force. But this corruption reportedly weakened China's military readiness and may have delayed plans for major operations, such as actions against Taiwan. Either one indicates the PLA is rotten to the core, and no one knows what the PLA might do if ordered into kinetics, likely at minimum passive resistance and maximum open revolt. And there are rumors of open revolt already, with tanks in the street in Beijing. While some analysts question the technical plausibility, since liquid-fueled missiles are typically stored empty to prevent corrosion, the report suggests that water filling was either deliberate sabotage or symbolic indicator of systemic graft, either of which are disastrous for the PLA's rocket force, strategic nuclear arsenal. Zhang Yuxi's removal has triggered a significant turmoil within China's military, with reports indicating deep unrest rather than outright revolt, although there are reports of outright revolt. On January 24th, 2026, China announced Zhang Yuxi's Vice Major of the Central Military Commission, and Liu Zhenji, Chief of the CMC Joint Department, were under investigation for serious violations of discipline and law, sparking widespread speculation of a political purge. Military tensions escalated rapidly following the announcement. Sources suggest that Zhang and Liu were secretly detained amid claims of a failed attempt to arrest Xi Jinping on January 18th. According to reports, Xi was staying at a Jixi hotel in Beijing where the plot was allegedly uncovered 2 hours before execution, prompting a swift counter-operation by loyalist forces, including the Central Guard Bureau. This is highly unlikely to be accurate, but the propaganda value is significant against Xi. All of these things, whether they're true or not, add up to a fading or failing power base for Xi. Internal military chaos followed, with officers reportedly submitting mass resignation requests, commanders refusing to issue public loyalty statements, and movement across theater commands being restricted. Analysts describe a climate of fear and passive resistance within the PLA, as many officers promoted under Zhang Yujia now fear further purges, as well they should. While there is no confirmed armed revolt, the purge has exposed severe fractures within the PLA's leadership, with concerns that Zhang's loyalists could still pose a threat to stability. In fact, they do, because notably an extraordinary reversal occurred during the National People's Congress, where efforts to formally revoke Zhang's delegate status failed. That is, they couldn't throw him off the CCP committee, suggesting resistance at the highest level to Xi's purge. That has never happened before. That is, the Congress and the military are both resisting Xi. Xi is in trouble and may fall. This has fueled speculation about internal divisions, though no evidence supports claims of a coup or release, although there have been reports of coups and release of Zhang Yuxia, but it's very hard to tell what is true. As of today, Zhang remains under investigation and his fate remains uncertain. Welcome, everybody. I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point. I'm under the weather, so I'm going to keep this brief. But that's my new Substack, my new paid Substack. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. Is China Why Trump Won't Strike Iran? And so I'm connecting dots that no one else is, and I hope you will support that effort by subscribing to my Substack. Also, go to beready123.com, get your new Iridium 9555 phone, or if you don't want to do that, there's generators you can get, there's Faraday bags, there's all kinds of great stuff there. sat123.com or beready123.com as well. So what I'm also going to cover today, and I'm going to try and be brief per my wonderful wife's instructions because I'm under the weather, is 112 C-17s head to the Mideast, but they're empty. They're not moving troops. They're not moving equipment. Now, we'll get into that. FBI lie on the Fulton County election steal. And if Trump won't hit Iran, Netanyahu will. Epstein files rock European elite, but not in the U.S. And Congressman Massie and KHANNA best Patel and Bongino in just 2 hours. So those are the major intelligence drops that I want to get through here. So 112 U.S. Air Force C-17 aircraft headed to the Middle East. This is Desert Storm levels. So I've jumped out of C-17s. It's like you're in a football field that's flying. That's how big they are. They're massive. But as the aircraft are empty and have no troops, this may be a show of force or air support for Israeli ground troops in Iran, or a larger target for an Israeli false flag blaming Iran. That's a lot of planes to be parked that could be sabotaged and hit. And then that becomes an excuse for America to get more involved. And it doesn't necessarily kill any American troops. That's the false flag that Israel could bring about. So I don't know, but it is strange that they're spending all that fuel and moving all those hundreds of aircraft empty. Because if they want to bring in troops, God forbid, we're going to have troops in an Israeli-Iran war, then they're going to have to fly back to the United States to bring them in. Anyway, this high number of C-17 Globemaster military transport and cargo planes have been heading to Europe and the Middle East. It's what some call a buildup to major war with Iran, but I'd say it more looks like a show of force. So a total of 112 U.S. Air Force C-17s have now either arrived or en route to the Middle East, with a further 17, 18 in progress flights. A number of Royal Air Force logistic flights from the Royal Air Force going from Markham to RAF Akaroti in Cyprus, and movement on U.S. Air Force cornets. C-17s are so massive, they have a payload capability of over 170,000 pounds, ability to operate on short, austere runways as small as 3,500 feet, intercontinental range with in-flight refueling, extended reach even further, rapid load and unload design to keep missions moving under pressure. They can haul tanks, they can haul troops, they can drop paratroopers. So that's very, very significant. But my take on that is it looks like a show of force because they are empty. And it comes out that the FBI has disappeared 40 vote boxes from Fulton County, and they warned the Fulton County officials in advance of the raid, which is no surprise. There'll be no consequences. The FBI lie as usual. So when federal agents raided the Fulton County, Georgia Department of Elections in late January, they're expecting to confiscate 700 boxes of election officials. Officials later said they were only able to find 656 boxes total, more than 40 boxes short of what they were expecting to find. Is that because they weren't there or the FBI disappeared them? And of course, there'll be no consequences to that whatsoever because the FBI is totally in on it and no one has been held accountable, nor do we expect anybody to be held accountable because the FBI is the cover-up team for the deep state. Hey, also remember to get your staybrewed.com coffee, or if you want the Prather private label, this is in the jeffreyprather.com shop. It's my preferred blend, and I'm a coffee snob after drinking so many bad coffees over the years. Staybrewed.com, teamamerica.com for 20% off. And Israel is determined to attack Iran, even if the U.S. does not. So I've talked about this before, that I believe the Trump revelations released suddenly in the Epstein files were blackmail exposing Trump, although the latest says that Trump was the one who called the police on Epstein. And the allegations are very old and stale. But at this stage, it's not clear what Trump intends to do. What is clear is he hasn't struck Iran yet. Now, the Israelis know about the Qamarash 4 missiles that Iran now possesses. They know about the unconventional warheads that could potentially represent biological and chemical threats, which again is what we always hear from Netanyahu. Nothing new about that. He's been saying that same stuff forever. But according to the Jerusalem Post, Israeli officials are openly admitting that Israel attacked Iran alone if necessary. So if I am correct, and the Mossad assets inside the DOJ and FBI who released the Epstein files against Trump are trying to punish him, it may be having the opposite effect. Trump may have felt, well, I've done everything you guys have asked. I've already hit Iran once, and this is what I get. And so Trump is not someone who retreats, he counterpunches. Now, Netanyahu is coming in to meet with Trump tomorrow, and I'm sure that is to pressure him to go to war. And the truth is, Israel needs America and America's support to go. So Trump has given him, likely, that's why all these 112 C-17 Globemasters are being brought to move equipment. But from my view, it doesn't look like he is going to participate in hitting Iran. Again, because Russia and China are now aligning with Iran. He's already in a proxy war with Russia via Ukraine that just keeps going on and on. He certainly doesn't want an open war with Russia, who is winning and will win and has been winning the Ukraine war. And then he would also be taking on the other Chinese nuclear superpower at the same time. So basically, the entire world would be aligned against him, which is what the Greater Israel plan eventually calls for, is for all the Goyim, all the non-Jews, to destroy each other. Now, I said that I believe Trump has converted, that he's Jewish. This is what Mark Levin said, and Trump didn't contradict him. And I put out a Substack earlier about Trump, first Jewish president. But it remains to be seen if Trump will attack or will resist. And my intelligence analysis right now is that he will resist, that he will not attack. According to security sources, Israel intends to dismantle Iran's missiles capabilities and production infrastructure through high-level exchanges. Military officials outlined operational concepts to degrade the program, including strikes on key manufacturing sites. We told the Americans we will strike alone if Iran crosses the red line. And it's difficult to tell what the Iranians are refusing to agree to. But we're sure tomorrow, on Wednesday, when Netanyahu is visiting the White House, will be the major topic of conversation. So will Trump give in to that yet again? Does Netanyahu have missiles, or not missiles, but nuclear devices out throughout America that he's holding Trump hostage with, as Ann Vandersteel has suggested? Unknown. Yeah, I'm taking ivermectin. I'm taking everything, guys. I appreciate that. Appreciate your prayers as well. Someone bet 100K we would hit Iran on the 9th. The profit would have been 14 million, apparently. Insider trying to leak? Could have been there. Interesting. And again, the big Trump supporting Gateway pundit was crowing that Trump was the one. It's now revealed that who reported Epstein to the police department there at Mar-a-Lago. Um, but America looks like it is more corrupt than Europe. And by more corrupt, I mean more in thrall and controlled by the deep state, the double government, the intelligence community. Because if Epstein fallout is any indicator, America is the most deep state corrupted country in the world. So a prince, an ambassador, senior diplomats, top politicians have all been brought down by the Jeffrey Epstein latest file released, and all in Europe, not in the United States. The huge trove of Epstein documents released by the U.S. Department of Justice has sent shockwaves through Europe's political, economic, and social elite, dominating headlines, ending careers, and spurring political and criminal investigations. Former UK ambassador to Washington, Peter Mandelson, was fired and could go to prison. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces a leadership crisis over the Mandelson appointment. Senior figures have fallen in Norway, Sweden, and Slovakia. And even before the latest batch of files, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, brother of King Charles, lost his honors and princely titles and taxpayer-funded mansion. Oh my gosh. Apart from the former Prince Andrew, none of them face charges of wrongdoing. They have been toppled, though, for maintaining friendly relationships with Epstein after he became a convicted sex offender. As was Steve Bannon, by the way, which I will do when I am feeling better. Do I think Erica Kirk is an asset? Definitely. No doubt at this point, if Erica Kirk is a deep state asset. The TPUSA halftime show and what TPUSA has turned into, which is totally, recently Erica Kirk said, yes, I'm paraphrasing, I'm upset about my husband dying, but what really upsets me is when people don't like Israel. So she and TPUSA have totally reversed where Charlie Kirk was going, leaving the Israeli cause. And it's clear that they were all in on it at this point, as far as I am concerned. UK figures felled by their ties to Epstein include the former Prince Andrew, who paid millions to settle a lawsuit with one of Epstein's victims and is facing pressure to testify in the U.S., and his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, whose charity shut down this week. And we found that most of these charities, just like Erica Kirk's Romanian adoption agency, how's an Arizona beauty queen end up doing a Romanian adoption agency? Mandelson appeared to refer to Epstein's release from prison as Liberation Day. Starmer fired Mandelson in September over earlier revelations about his Epstein lies. Now, British police are investigating whether Mandelson committed misconduct in public office by passing on sensitive government information to Epstein. These are the investigations that should be happening in the United States through the FBI lie, but will not, because the FBI lie simply covers up everything. Starmer has apologized to Epstein's victims and pledged to release public documents that will show Mandelson lied when he was being vetted for the ambassador's job. That may not be enough to stop furious lawmakers trying to eject the prime minister from office over his failure of judgment. Now, there are a few high-profile Americans have faced repercussions over their ties with Epstein. Most prominent is former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, who went on leave from academic positions at Harvard late last year. Brad Karp quit last week as chair of the top U.S. law firm Paul Weiss after revelations in the latest batch of documents. The National Football League said it would investigate Epstein's relationship with New York Giants co-owner Steve Tisch, who exchanged sometimes crude emails with Epstein about potential dates with adult women. Other U.S. Epstein associates have not faced sanction, including former Trump strategist Steve Bannon. I'm going to cover that in detail. I've met Bannon. I've been at private events where he snubbed everybody. And of course, I'll go into that on more deeply on another show when I'm feeling better. But he exchanged hundreds of texts with Epstein. He wanted to reform Epstein and work for Epstein publicly. I've published on X, republished on X, photos of him with Epstein. We'll get into that later. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who accepted an invitation to visit Epstein's private island, and tech billionaire Elon Musk, who discussed visiting the island in emails, but says he never made the trip, although looks like he was begging to go. Erica Kirk facing allegations of inappropriate behavior with minor female. Yes, I've seen that. That's not surprising at all, because that's what all of these elite do. They are seduced into evil behavior so they can become satanic worshipers, and also so they can be blackmailed. This is just standard. Other U.S. Joanna Rubinstein, a Swedish UN official, quit after the revelation of a 2012 visit to Epstein's Caribbean island. Miroslav Lajak, National Security Advisor to Slovak's Prime Minister, quit over his communication with Epstein, which included the pair discussing gorgeous girls. Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland have set up a wide-ranging official investigations into the Epstein documents. Poland's Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, said a team would scour the files for potential Polish victims and any links between Epstein and Russia secret services. Remember, Poland is the forward operational base for the Ukraine war. It's full of U.S. spies and U.S. military. Few countries have been as roiled by the Epstein revelations as Norway, a Scandinavian nation with a population of less than 6 million. So they're little fish. So because the pond is littler, they're more affected. The country's Economic Crimes Unit has opened a corruption investigation into former Prime Minister Thorbjørn Jagland, who also once headed the committee that hands out the Nobel Peace Prize, over his ties with Epstein. Remember when Obama got the Peace Prize for doing absolutely nothing? His lawyer said Jagland would cooperate with the probe. Also ensnared are high-profile Norwegian diplomat couple Terje Rad Larsen and Mona Juul, key players in the 1990s Israeli-Palestinian peace efforts. Juul has been suspended as Norway's ambassador to Jordan after revelations, including the fact that Epstein left the couple's children $10 million in a will drawn up shortly before his death by suicide. If he did die, that's debatable, especially in the new documents. Seeing people move and people being perhaps moved out in a wheelchair. Norwegians' respect for their royal family has been dented by the new details about Epstein's relationship with Crown Princess Mette-Marit, who is married to the heir to the throne, Prince Haakon. The files include jokey exchanges and emails planning visits to Epstein properties, teeth whitening appointments, and shopping trips. So while Epstein is affecting Europe, not in America, not happening in America, which makes me think that America is the most deep state controlled, double government controlled, most corrupt country in the world. When you meet these important people, can you easily detect they are evil? How have you developed that skill? So there, yes, I can, because I'm used to doing, as a warrior, my first delineation of people is friend or foe. And then that determines my duty to them. And so you do behavioral detection. There's lots of behavioral detection elements. Like a lot of real true predators won't make eye contact with you because they don't recognize you as human. But better than that is how they talk, if they are crude, and also what is best is discernment. The gift of the fruit of the Holy Spirit is discernment. telling you. But generally speaking, and I teach this in my ladies' fight back class, you can tell almost instantaneously when you're meeting someone if they're a good person or not. And you don't really run into too many truly evil people. But that's a good question. And I can take a couple more. So Congressman Thomas Massie from Kentucky and Congressman KHANNA from California bested Patel and Bongino in just 6 hours. And the biggest thing they said in an interview, and it's kind of an impromptu interview that they did, that the unredacted files they got to see were already redacted. And that means the FBI initially redacted them, which means the FBI is covering up as usual, which is no surprise. And again, there's nobody to oversee the FBI. I'm sure there's an FBI OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility, but I can tell you from personal experience with DEA's OPR, they're the most corrupt. Why? Because no one checks on them. But with all the BS that we saw with blathering Bongino and pattering Patel, where he's still standing out there with bug-eyed behind Trump, where they're just reading whatever is put in front of them, whatever script they're given, not doing any real work. Representatives Thomas Massie and KHANNA said they spotted at least 6 names of individuals likely incriminated by their inclusion in the Epstein files after the 2 reviewed an unredacted tranche of the documents. And they were able to do this on Monday. And they said there are 6 men. We went in there for 2 hours. I thought they were in there for 6 hours. There's millions of files. In a couple hours, we found 6 men whose names have been retracted who are implicated in a way that the files presented. They didn't name them, but actually in 2 hours, they did more than the months of bullshit by Bongino and Patel, because they are not covering up and they're actually trying to get justice. And they said they didn't name the high-ranking official in a foreign government. None of this is designed to be a witch hunt. Just because someone may be in the files doesn't mean they're guilty, but they're very powerful people who raped these now that's raped. KHANNA kept using that term, raped these underage girls, where you don't hear Bongino, who's out now, of course, complaining and back on. And if you're listening to Bongino, I mean, I can't help you. You know, you're a fool if you're still listening to that deep state fraud. But again, Massie is saying, I think we need to give the DOJ a chance to go back through and correct their mistakes. And that's really because there is no alternative to the FBI. But I've suggested an alternative to the FBI. And that is for the president to create a task force of special agents from various states, because every state attorney general has special agents, and put a task force together. But of course, Trump doesn't do that. If Trump really wanted to do something, he'd get rid of Bondi. He'd replace him maybe with Paxton. He'd certainly get rid of Patel. Drop hammer. Major Prathrai was at Edwards Air Force Base when the testing was accomplished for the C-17. I can certify say that that aircraft is the most awesome cargo craft. Yeah, it's an awesome aircraft. Certainly not as versatile, as rough as a C-130. I saw C-130s land in Mocorona on dirt strips, but that whole series of transport aircraft are fabulous. that is called discernment, and you can only get it by reading and studying the Bible. No, you get it by discernment comes not from the Bible. It comes from the Holy Spirit. It's a gift of the fruit of the Holy Spirit. And that's the way you should actually read the Holy Bible as well. But the Holy Bible gives you a straight line of moral code to judge everything else by. For example, we've said this is our hill to die on, the Epstein files. This is our line in the sand, and we are winning that. Whereas the corrupted officials don't care about that at all. So I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I don't follow the Super Bowl. I have nothing to identify with these professional football teams. I know there's some of them are good people and fine athletes, but for the most part, it's a big money-making organization and quite corrupted. Now, if you go to probably a college too, you got to go back to like high school and grade school where it's better. But if you watched the halftime show in Spanish, then you're part of the problem. The Super Bowl halftime show was a humiliation ritual. So it was by this guy named Bad Bunny, I guess. I've been to Puerto Rico. It's the third world. I didn't watch the Super Bowl, don't know or care who Bad Bunny is. If more folks got out of the church of football, we'd be better off. Professional football is a modern equivalent of bread and circuses. The Super Bowl is supposed to be a cultural cornerstone to Americans. It's a handful of days each year when most of the country pauses. You know, I don't watch it, but that's okay because I don't need to self-identify with some team that I really have nothing in common with. You know, I like to do stuff. I like to ride horses, do martial arts, shoot, teach. Football is not a global sport, though. It was created right here in the 1880s by Walter Camp. It was a sport created by Americans for Americans. Football around the world is called soccer. Everybody, that's the world sport. That's because all you need is a round ball and a field. That's football reality. So what's the NFL trying to do here? Super Bowl trying to do here is to create a Latin American market. But that's not really appropriate in my view. And also, I guess these lyrics that this idiot was singing in Spanish were very profane as well. So his songs were all Puerto Rican, not American. At the end of his performance, he exited the stage, followed by one American flag and several foreign flags, and said, "We are all America." That's something I used to say, "Somos todos americanos," to build rapport. Norte, Central y Sur, North America, Central America, and South America. As well. So, and then I guess he's against ICE as well. And of course, really being against ICE is you are pro-child trafficking, pro-drug trafficking, and pro-cartels, because that's really what's all that about. The humiliation comes in because Americans are being guilted out of their God-given right to sovereignty. They're told by activists, celebrities, athletes, Democrats, and the propaganda press that borders are illegitimate, that the enforcement of longstanding duly enacted federal immigration law is racist and xenophobic and anti-American. Of course, borders and a language, definable borders and a one language, English, is what defines country. A foreign language replaced our national language, English. Foreign flags are overshadowed by the American, when foreign culture was elevated during the traditional American experience. And that is a humiliation ritual. And as I said, I've been to Puerto Rico. I've worked Puerto Rico. It's okay, but it's third world, and it would not be much without America. So that's the essential that's the essential intelligence I wanted to get out today. I'm going to close early. What do you think Epstein did with the 330 gallons of sulfuric acid? I think he was disintegrating the bodies, again, for identification. I covered a long time ago how there were little small graves dug. You can probably go back and find this. And then there was a tennis court way out in the middle of nowhere put over all of that. So I think those were covering up the bodies. I think there was a lot of murder. In fact, the DOJ lie spokesman was saying that there was death. They're not going to show images of death there. But that's what I think that is. So anyway, apologies for a briefer show today, but I am under the weather, and my wonderful wife is asking me to take it easy. I'm going to honor that request. Remember, freedom is never given. It is earned, fought for, won, and taken. So you must take it.